Artist block has hit me again and I am really stuck this time. Have you ever been stuck and not sure what to do? Let's jump into this video and go over some tips and tricks to get out of artist block. Welcome back to my channel. This is Kim with K Montes Art Studio, and today we have some tips and tricks to get out of artist block. One of my favorite tricks to getting out of artist block is, of course, cleaning your room. Finding clarity in your space and just moving things around, sweeping up the floor, organizing your art materials, looking through art materials that you didn't realize you still had and haven't used in a while, and checking out some different supplies that you haven't really found interesting. I recently bought a large art haul. Thank you to all those who have watched my video, and welcome to all the new subscribers. I'm super excited to have you. And getting new art supplies sometimes can help with getting out of artist block because you're so excited to explore the material, to learn the material, to have fun and just be messy. I love getting new materials when I have the opportunity to, and I just explore. I have a free sort of painting session. I don't look forward to kind of creating good art. I'm more so learning the material and really diving into that material. So let's say you did get some new materials and you still feel stuck. Experiment with that material, understand how it works, figure out new ways of making it work. For example, here I'm working with soft pastels, and I personally don't like that they're chalky and they flake, but this particular set, I was able to wet the pastel and allow the pastel to almost work as paint. Then I added some more medium on top, adding some Inktense pencils, some color pencils, some other mediums, and just have fun with the medium itself. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to look like anything. It can just be swatches for those that love swatching. It can be something that is much more beautiful. It can be whatever you want it to be. So again, just reviewing these materials. I'm currently using my Inktense pencils, which is a material that I have not used in a while. And I'm just coloring right over my soft pastel drawing. I'm also including some of my new gouache, my Niji gouache that I absolutely love. They're very pigmented. They are soft and creamy, and they layer really well. I love that they're opaque, as usually gouaches are, and the way that they layer on top of this soft pastel allows it to kind of sit on top. So that's the good thing about experimenting. You can really start to know some different languages for your mediums. For those that are fairly new or don't know soft pastels too well, you can play around with the stick itself and just go forward and allow it to be messy, and maybe smudge things around with your hand and move the pigment around and allow it to sit for a while and see what you like about it. You can even decide that you like the way it looks and spray it down with any type of adhesive that is meant for soft pastels, and you can then go over that with another medium and experiment that way. A lot of my art is experimenting and really pushing myself out of any type of artist block when I'm in one, and just letting the material do its thing. So just to give you a quick review on this gouache, I bought this gouache at Michael's, and As I mentioned earlier, I love how soft and creamy they are. They blend well, they dilute really well. I do wish I had a larger variation of color, but the good side about it is that it comes with a paint palette and I'm able to mix my own colors. So here's the first piece that I was able to create in my large A3 sketchbook, moleskin sketchbook, and I love that it's messy and I'm not too worried about it possibly being in an exhibit. I can just close the book and call it a day. My next tip is explore different styles. So I've been trying to explore my illustrative style, and in this particular painting that I started and hadn't finished, I started off with my Dr. PH ink, and I love how it's sort of like watercolor, but it's also its own independent medium. And I love that they allow you to color right on top. So depending on how much water you add to your brush, and you can use this with a brush or a pen, you can definitely get different textures and different variations within just one specific color. So you can see that I used a lot of green, and the green allowed me to dilute it and add yellow and change the color, even though I was only provided one color of green. So playing around with different styles and exploring something that you've never tried before. One of my favorite tips is grab some of your old work and use it as inspiration. So I literally pulled this old piece that I worked on maybe 2 years ago, and I love the way I created this piece. I still cannot manage to replicate it, or I don't know what I did and how I managed to get these sort of mixed colors. I also use acrylic gouache, so I could try to experiment with that again. But anywho, I really love the way that piece looked, and the mixture of paints, the way you can see different colors of paint within an area. So I use that as inspiration for this illustration here. And although I didn't acquire the exact look, I was able to use it as visual inspiration for the way I drew my trees or the way I drew my bushes. So drawing from your old work is one of my greatest tips of getting out of art block. So I wanted to review another material. So here we have the Dr. PH Martin, and I love this ink. I have smaller tubs of it with a little squeezy tube, and I only have about maybe 3 or 4 colors, but I love the way this particular ink setup is made, because I can, dip my brush into it and sit it on the white little tub and kind of just mix things away. I can dilute it with water and it dilutes so lovely. It dries very fast. I would say sometimes you have to work really fast if you're working in large areas like I was with this particular sky. So working fast is a must when you're using this this ink. This is Indian ink, and it's just so lovely to be able to create soft illustrations with. So let me dive into some of my recent art block issues. I have been dealing with a lot of changes in my life, and sometimes life just hits you out of nowhere and you are forced to deal with the things that you are facing. And there's nothing wrong with that, and nothing in particularly bad is happening in my life. Actually, a lot of good things are happening, but sometimes you just get overwhelmed and lose track of your art and kind of get really focused on the other things that are going on, and that can really block you from creative techniques and things like that. So pay attention to like what it is that is blocking you, and if you find yourself to be in different blocks that are not necessarily intentional, try to really force yourself to make a little piece a day. So when I immediately noticed that, I walked around my house with a small sketchbook and I was just sketching, just doodling away, like making these little sort of cave-like structures that you actually can see in that illustration up at the top of the mountain. And I was in love with these cave-like structures. I don't know if it's tied to my obsession with mountains, but just doodle something and make a lot of it so that you can at least get into the flow of creating something. Also, another tip is creating something that you've been thinking about for some time. So I've been, again, thinking about creating illustrations, and I had considered diving into possibly making figures and people and animals, and I immediately was stumped. And I didn't want to be stumped. I wanted to do something that I was more comfortable with. So I was drawn to creating exterior buildings and sort of scenery. So I decided to go with the first illustration, which was the landscape. And for the second illustration, I was using Unsplash and found this beautiful image. I modified it to make it my own. Very simple. You can see that the image itself, the drawing itself, is actually extremely simple. There's very little technical techniques, I guess you can say, inside of this painting. And I even kept the painting itself very simple. So standard, 2.1 point perspective with the stairs, and just very flat drawings, just trying to get out of an art block. So once I finish the flat drawing, I kept the base color flat as well. And at this point in exploring and getting out of my art block, I was feeling the flow. I finally felt like, oh, I'm liking this, I'm getting into it. So I was able to focus more. So for this particular painting, I was drawn to making, again, not just the drawing flat, but also the very first layer of paint very flat. And that's what I like about gouache. You can really lay it on super matte and have it be almost graphic like. And that was my intention with this drawing, to get the under layer very flat, almost not very well painted, and have the next medium that I was going to use, the color pencils, do all the work, do all the detail work. So you can see here, there's not much visual interest yet. There's not much happening within the image itself. You can start to build that detail. You can start to build onto your drawing and allow yourself to really use the detail as a way of focusing on your art and, again, getting out of your artist block. So I want to take a second here to really thank all my new subscribers. This coming year, I'm looking forward to getting monetized and possibly reach my 1,000 subscribers. I have been working on my art YouTube for about 2 or so years now, and I've been trying to be consistent and have videos that you all really enjoy. and things that I enjoy doing. So let me know in the comments below what you would like to see next. It seems that a lot of you enjoy art reviews. Of course, everyone enjoys a good art haul, maybe a sketchbook tour, some, I don't know, maybe studio vlogs, whatever it is that you're thinking. Just let me know in the comments below so that I can really pay attention to the things that you like and adjust the way I work. So going back to one of my previous tips in exploring a new style to help yourself get out of artist block, when you're starting to explore this new style, you're not going to be good at it. And I had to accept that the hard way. I wanted so badly to have a really good illustration at the end of this session. It was okay, it's not terrible, but I would have preferred it to be much more detailed. However, I'm just learning, so it might sound strange to say that, but because I've been painting for so many years, but I think that there's variations in style, and learning your style and having it be your way for so long, and then you try to pick up a new style, things are new. Things are going to be different. So, for example, if I were to be a graphic designer and I decided to switch up my style and maybe decide to pick up painting, I'm gonna expect things to be one way, but things turn out to be another way. And even though I still have that artistic talent and skill, there's still some learning curve. So ultimately, what I'm mentioning is be patient with yourself when you decide to explore a new style. Don't give up right away and really see if you like it. Start to explore different views, different topics, play around with, things like animals, things like exteriors, interiors. You can play with landscapes. There's a whole list of things that you can definitely work on, but don't stop with just the very first if you really are interested in that one style. So at this point of the painting, I was at what I call the U curve, and the way I describe the U is when you first start a painting, at the top of the U, you have a lot of excitement, a lot of joy, a lot of sort of thrill behind whatever you're starting, whether that's a painting or something else. And then once you get through halfway point, you're at the belly of the U, the very bottom, the pits of the belly of the U. And things are feeling ugly, things are feeling incomplete, and you are slowly losing motivation a little bit. But push through that, because at the end, you'll reach the top of the U and the letter U is complete. You don't want to stop at the belly of the U and have a backwards J. You want to be able to kind of push on through and maybe step away from it, which is exactly what I did. I stepped away, grabbed some water, some electrolytes. I have 2 cups there. One is for water and one is for electrolytes because I was obviously very thirsty. And I was able to kind of just take a break and see what I needed and how I can kind of adjust. Speaking of adjustments, I was able to deal with the wonkiness that I was actually striving to capture with this illustration. I really wanted to push the boundaries on wonkiness, and I don't think that I totally got there, but I was able to do what I could with what I knew. So playing around with the fence and thinking about how maybe light is hitting the stair area and not necessarily hitting the fence area. So noticing the different color changes. I also had a lot of fun making that little cat on the window. And that was one of my challenges, making animals and people and figures. And I think being able to face a challenge, whether it's small or large, and really think about what is it that makes it so hard for you. So for me, I have a difficulty making faces, and I mentioned this in a previous video when I worked on my self-portrait, but something about having a face be representational is important to me, and I haven't practiced it so many years. The last time I made a replica or an exact copy of myself, like a really good self-portrait, was in high school, and I worked extremely hard to get it to look exactly like me, and I think I made it look pretty good. But I wasn't necessarily impressed when that self-portrait was over. It was like, yeah, I have the talent to make something look exactly like something else, but it was something that was not fulfilling about that. So that's when I started to understand that I was much more of a abstract artist, much more of a non-representational artist, and I explored that style for a really long time. So I abandoned the idea of portraits and realism and all of that. So I'm pretty rusty. So that could be the reason that I'm not good at any of those realistic things. But then with illustration, you can explore and make things wonky and kind of fun and doesn't have to look like anything. And that brought me back to thinking, oh yeah, that's right, it doesn't matter with illustration. So I really do hope that these tips and tricks and some of these reviews that I gave on some of the materials today were helpful. Definitely push yourself through the letter U and get out of that rut. Think about the things that you want to explore. Maybe start off with a list, explore some materials, think about fun, wonky ways of drawing. Push yourself out of your comfort zone and really think about what you love about making art. Once again, welcome and thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to all the old subscribers, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you really enjoy this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.